So just a bit of an introduction on who I am. Adam Nichols, I'm the Senior TA Partner at Northern. And today I'm going to talk to you about our journey with AI and how we've leaned into it and embraced it. I am by no means an AI expert. I've been in the TA and recruitment space for over 20 years now. So this is really coming to you from a perspective of how we as a TA community in Northern have really leaned into using AI and how we plan to use it further down the line as well. There's a chance to ask questions at the end. But like I say, this is going to be interactive. I'm going to ask you guys to do some standing up, some yeeps, and ideally beat that noise as well. So please participate. One other point as well. Today, I'm trying to explain to my daughter what I'm doing today. She's promised me I need to get a selfie with all you great people at the end. So if you don't want to be involved in that, leave. Otherwise you'll get caught in the picture. But otherwise stay and be part of that. It'd be brilliant. Okay? Cool. So, who are Northern? Or Northern Trains? How many of you know us or have heard of us, used us? Okay, this shouldn't be too difficult then. So, we are a very, very large train provider. We're the second largest in the UK, next to London. We are a customer-centric business with over 100 million passengers on a yearly basis. The amount of stations staggered me when I joined. I never knew there was that many stations within us. But yeah, we cover a huge area from the Scottish borders all the way down to Nottingham that way. We are a customer-facing business. Every customer, as we say in the TA world, is also a potential candidate and vice versa. So we're all about how do we engage with the customers and ensure they get a good experience. So, this is the bit we're talking about in terms of getting you involved. I want this group to stand up and give me a whoop, louder than that noise over there. So who of you in this audience at the moment are currently using AI in their recruitment process? Stand up and give us a whoop, really loud. Louder. Okay. Who's exploring it or trialing it at the moment? Again, stand up, give me a whoop. Okay. And the last of you, come on, big whoop this time. Okay. So we've got a good mix of people that are already in there, some that are trialing it. So this will be really interesting. And again, save your questions to the end. Really keen to get some insights from you guys as well. So we come to the challenge of what we've had to face at Northern and why we've leaned into it. Now, our challenges aren't that different to many of yours. We've got high volume of candidates. To give you a bit of a picture of what that looks like, on an average month, we get about 10,000 applications. Now, in our operational recruitment, where it's drivers, conductors, for example, we can have up to 4,000 applications per role. So we get really high volumes. Now, we're also hampered by an ATS that's very manual. So that's affected things like the time to offer, and our pressure is to get drivers into training, conductors into training so that we can actually conduct the services that we have promised. And as I just touched on in a minute, we have very little automation in our current system. It's all manual. Now, to give you some context to that, those 4,000 applications, we have to go through manual processes. Number one, do they live within a certain distance? So we have to go through each individual postcode. Is it within a site distance of 45 minutes? We have loads of these processes that are really, really manual and takes a huge amount of time. Like I say, these aren't any different really to some of you. You all experience this in your own ways, but they are unique to us. They're very challenging to us. So once we knew what our challenges were and we were clear on what they were, we wanted to look at actually what is our vision? What do we want to achieve when it comes to improving this process? And like anyone, we're looking at efficiencies. Yeah, we're looking at how do we make our lives easier? How do we get to the candidates the quickest? How do we identify the top candidates quickly? How do we automate it? How do we reduce time? Everything that we do is time critical. There is a fight for talent currently. There always is, trying to get to the best talent the quickest. And also, when it comes to future-proofing our recruitment, AI is the big subject at the moment. It's how is it going to impact TA? How is it going to impact recruitment in general? How can we ensure that our tech stack, our ability to future-proof how we do what we do, the data behind it as well? So those were our visions. That's what we wanted to try and achieve based on our challenges. So why AI? And that is the question for everyone at the moment. Do you go into AI? Do you not? Do you stay what you're doing? And for us, we saw a number of challenges. A lot of our applications, as you've probably seen now, are AI generated. People are using them for CVs. 65% of the UK's applications, people are using AI, whether that's to write their CVs, answer application questions. There's multiple different uses that people are using AI to apply for jobs. One of the reasons why we're seeing such a spike in applications in the UK, it's a lot easier now to apply for roles. So how do we combat that? You use AI to combat it. We wanted to accelerate our recruitment and really keep a secure, high quality, and really get to the top talent quickly. And we also wanted to reduce and improve the fairness and the scalability of what we do. Our focus to start was really around the operational recruitment. It wasn't about all of our recruitment to start with, but how can we scale up and go to all of our roles across the business? In terms of reviewing the market, we did an in-depth dive really into all of the providers at the moment that are offering solutions within the TA landscape. Looked at multiple different businesses, went to demos, and really go into what our vision was, looking at how they would combat our challenges. We were really keen to move away from CVs and go to actually how do we assess talent? And that talent needs to be, we want to look at the hard and soft skills. How do people do what they do? In a lot of our roles, you don't need to have experience. Drivers, conductors, for example. You don't have to have previous experience. So we're more interested actually on what are your hard and soft skills to achieve those jobs. We didn't want to just stop at operational recruitment. We wanted to go full breadth of all of our recruitment. So really, is this scalable? Can we start to introduce other roles? And can we look at different volume types? So obviously the main reason we went for this was high volume, but then we also want to start to introduce lower, more specific specialist roles as well. Was the experience for a candidate, talked earlier about how candidates for us are potential customers and vice versa. What is that experience going to be like for each candidate? Is it going to be unique? Is it going to give them something? We're really, really keen on trying to find a solution where we can give back to the candidates. It's not just a yes or no scenario. So really, at the heart of it was, what is that experience going to be like for the candidates? As we all know in TA, analytics, data, all drive, our decision making and really help us form what our decisions are going to be. So again, being able to see the data coming in to enable us to have that continuous improvement with this system. With anything new, you're always trying to look at something, you're always trying to look at it as in how do we improve? So using data and the analytics behind all of that to inform us. So we conducted that full review of the market. And if you haven't done it recently, I highly recommend doing it, just to get an understanding of who is out there at the moment, what are they doing, and how do any of them align to what you're looking at the moment. It's a really interesting process to go through. So, we did the process. We ended up selecting a company called Mackie People. Now, Mackie People actually are here. They're in the far corner at the back. And there was a number of reasons why we chose them. For us as a business, and it has to align to you, Mackie isn't for everyone, but it aligned to us really nicely in terms of how customizable they were. The experience it gives a candidate was very, very unique and was ideal to what we were looking for. They had great assessment tools that we could tailor. No one's using this in the rail industry. So a lot of what we've had to do is adjust and create new assessment types that actually mold what we need. And they were able to do it. We're looking at technical capabilities. We're looking at behavioral, and we're assessing those fairly. And we felt that the Mackie People was a really good fit for that. As with any additional software, we were hoping or needing it to actually embed into our current ATS. And did it do that successfully? Yes. And again, to bolster up that data, was it giving us the right data we needed? And will it give us the insight that we need to then start to create more assessments and get more specific in terms of the candidate attraction piece? So we ended up going with Mackie. Implementation journey. Who of you have gone through ATS implementations or any type of software implementation within TA? Just give yourself a little whoop. Is it difficult? Hard? How have you guys found it? Difficult? So with any new software you're trying to bring in, you're trying to reduce the risk. And we were really confident with the plan that we had, with the implementation group we had within Mackie, and also the implementation group we had within our current ATS. Crucial bit here is collaboration with the hiring managers, your stakeholders within the business. It was really, really crucial that we had them on board with what we wanted to achieve, that they felt that they were involved in the assessment creation, and really were in part of that implementation. There's a saying, a system is only as good as the people that use it. The hiring managers for us were really important because they may not use the system, but they've helped us create what they're looking for. And that buy-in was really, really crucial. And I mentioned, the collaboration with Mackie and our ATS provider as well really did enable that implementation process to be quite easy. And we ended up doing it, I think it was around about 8 weeks, there or thereabouts, for the basic implementation. And assessment design as well. So we've actually created some of our assessments from scratch. Now, Mackie do have ones you can kind of pull in and use off the shelf, but for a lot of our roles, it was all done from scratch, using the hiring manager's input, constant review, send it back, constant review again, and that process with our hiring managers really enabled that part of the implementation to go quite smoothly. I mentioned a lot of our roles we started with were in our what we call our operations, so drivers, conductors, and the engineering part of our business. So we started slow. We really wanted to see, number one, it's not been done before. So how would it work? How would it feel for candidates? And would it give us the desired impact of, can we get to that top talent really, really quickly? And is that top talent being assessed to the standard that we need? So going small to start with really enabled us to sort of pick that apart and use the data in the back end of Mackie to align our assessments correctly. And again, feedback from hiring managers, that's been a crucial piece as well. I can't emphasize this enough. The communication piece between stakeholders and getting that buy-in is crucial. This is a unique approach. For any candidate, we are not asking for CVs. We're putting them through a very immersive experience. We're asking them to record themselves speaking so it can assess their English proficiency. We're screening out candidates based on where they live to make sure that we're only really attracting the people that we want to, so we're not wasting their time. But that whole piece around getting those elements right within the system and then using the right balance, and this is a crucial piece, the right balance between AI and a human decision. A lot of people are worried about AI will take over that decision making, whereas actually we've leaned into the fact that AI will assist us to get to the best talent quickly. But where we come in as recruiters is actually we have that personal touch with those high caliber candidates. We can then have an informed decision with them and have a really, really in-depth conversation, knowing that they are a good fit candidate because they've passed the assessment. And it's useful to them. And an interesting thing that we've actually been able to implement here is that every single candidate, whether you pass or fail our test, gets a unique piece of feedback to them based on their assessment. Now you think about it, one of the age-old things that we deal with in TA is candidates either being ghosted or not receiving useful feedback. What we've been able to do is actually create that. So every single candidate that goes through our process, whether you pass or fail, gets a unique piece of feedback based on how they actually did the assessment. So it's useful for them. No candidate gets ghosted in this process. How many systems can we say at the moment do that? It was a really, really positive step forward for us. So, some of the early results. Again, focusing on the candidate. These are some of the things that are said. But in general, the feedback has been super positive. A unique experience for each candidate that does this assessment with us. We aren't just asking them to send us a CV or a cover note or answer this or that question. We're giving them a very unique experience. And I'll show you what that's going to look like in a minute. But you know, we have a live avatar within the system, which we probably need to name, if I'm honest. Matthew's at the back. I think we probably need to give her a name. But the candidate experience to us is number one. What do they get from it? And overall so far, super positive. And that's even people that didn't get through the assessment. That's the old one. That should be customer satisfaction. So registration, we are seeing 100% success rate in terms of people registering for the assessment. 70% of the candidates that do it complete the assessment. Now, I'll draw that down a little bit more. In that 70%, what we've actually seen is, I'll take a specific role. The first role that we did was a conductor role, in Newcastle. We would normally see about 600 to 700 applications for a role out normally. We had 1,100 people attempt that test. 60% of those 1,100 didn't get past our killer questions. We have certain criteria within those roles. You have to live within a certain distance of the station you're working from. The big problem we had previous to that is that we would have to go through all of those candidates individually and check. The system dealt with that for us. 60% of people were moved away from that process straight away. The 40% that did move through, we then saw a 30% success rate of them passing the assessment. So you can imagine when we would normally get a large percentage of candidates we would have to manually screen, we were narrowing it right down straight from the off to just over 100 candidates. When those 100 candidates, we could then target the top 5–10% and go and have meaningful conversations with them. So you can see straight away some of our successes were time saving for our team. And that's really meant that we've had to adjust how our team work and going back to that human interaction with candidates. Whereas before we wouldn't be able to speak to everyone, now we're able to target in on those top candidates and really have a meaningful conversation with them. The other thing it's done, which is interesting, is their perception of our business. Again, going back to their feedback, it's changed how they've looked at us. They've all said, we really like the fact that you're not basing us on a CV or how we've written an application. It's actually based on their skills, and that's been really appreciated from their candidate feedback. So early results, and we are still early. We're not fully rolled out. is that number one, it is saving the TA team ultimately a huge amount of time, where we've been able to repurpose some of our team members to go to do other tasks that will support the team. And it's also meant that we've been able to get to the best talent quickly. And that's enabled our hiring managers to see the best talent. And again, feedback from hiring managers so far is what they're seeing is a much higher standard candidate because of it. So, what's next? This is our avatar. And as I say, we probably need to give her a name. So any recommendations or any suggestions, there's my LinkedIn profile will come up in a minute. You can send me some recommendations and we'll consider it. But I think we need to give her a name. She walks you through your immersive assessment. When we talk about the unique experience, this is your application buddy, essentially. And she will walk through, she will ask you your questions and she'll walk you through your assessment. Very, very unique. And as you see, we've logoed her up and branded her to us uniquely. Great experience. So, we will expand Mackie. We will expand across most of our roles within the business. As I said earlier, it's really nice starting to look at what assessments do we want to bring in for which roles and how do you want to assess those roles. This is a change management piece as well. Hiring managers need to be brought along on this journey. You know, in some cases we're saying we don't need CVs anymore. That's a big shock to some hiring managers. They're used to having CVs. They're used to having an application of a certain standard, a certain format. We're moving that to one side. You need to bring them in on that process and really get them bought into what they want and then create their need. We're embedding AI into the full spectrum of TA. Everything from the front end, from the analytics, the data that drives our decision and helps us form those assessments and the processes behind it, through to the experience a candidate actually has in their recruitment process. But ultimately, it's about how do we give us, our recruiters, the time, the space to have that extra added value and speaking to those candidates, the bit that AI cannot do, the bit that people actually applying for jobs want. They want to speak to a human. They want to get better insight. They want to explain their circumstances in a better way. So that is really our goal, is to get that blend correct. And with anything, you know, we really want to look at how can we improve it? How can we constantly review what we are doing, using the data, using candidate feedback, using hiring manager feedback on a continuous loop that then optimizes ultimately what we're rolling out and adjusting and doing through this process. So, final thoughts. What does the future look like with AI? Now, this isn't going to happen. There's, again, you can probably tell this is an AI-generated picture because it's not perfect. There are mistakes in with it. AI will be a tool that we all use. Yeah, it's not going to replace us. Humans need humans, and we need to be at the forefront of that. We need to use AI as a tool. It's not about it taking over our jobs. It's about us making our jobs better and us better at our jobs. So for me, you know, I think where AI will be this time next year, who knows? We didn't really see it being where it was this time last year. It's moving at such a fast pace, which is why I say at the beginning, if you're not engaging with the market and looking at what suppliers are doing and what's coming down the pipe, you're missing a trick. Really get out there and speak to the suppliers. There's plenty here, and they will give you some guidance. Really think about what you want as well, because at the end of the day, it's your needs that it needs to cater for. So using it for what is going to be your needs, not one size fits all by any means. You know, we've chosen Mackie, other businesses will choose other suppliers. You have to take your specific needs into account. But for me, you know, AI, I think, will make us a much more interactive, humanized recruiter, and a lot more efficient. So that's my thoughts. Thank you for listening. Sorry if I went too fast. Thank you for the interactions at the beginning. I didn't really notice them too much, so that's good. But over to you guys. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam.